So can you like mindset hack your way into just that little reframe that it takes to allow yourself the latitude to friggin' get over yourself? Because in most cases, the perfection thing or, what your mom thinks you should do is something that you are putting on yourself. And if you can remove that pressure, then, you will go further.
Yeah, I love that. I see so many people who go into masterminds or groups and they're all just so crushing it in business. But the other areas you just mentioned, being a parent, being a spouse, and, someone who has a relationship with himself and being fit, I see those places lacking in many times. So I love that Go Abundance Women has like a holistic approach to it. It's not just about going on trips or just going about being successful in business. It's about taking care of the whole mind, body, spirit. I love that. What is there a question that I might ask you that I don't know to ask you right now about Go Abundance or about any of the challenges you've overcome? Just anything I can ask you, Mandy.
I feel like, one thing that has been just kind of an ongoing conversation, because this idea of financial freedom and optimism and, what's next comes up with me a lot. And a kind of a recurring conversation is I've done all this stuff and I want to leave my W-2 and I can't find the bravery to make it happen. Well, I'll tell you, a little hack on what helped me and has helped some friends is we think of these big decisions as being completely permanent. That if you're going to try to retire at 40 or 45 or whatever number, and you're worried about, well, what if it doesn't work, right? Well, number one, think about that 20 years from now, and is it really permanent? Can you treat it like it's an experiment? Right? Like when you go on a diet and it's scary that you're going to be on a diet, why don't you just treat it like an experiment? We're just going to try this for a couple weeks and see how it goes. This, self-employment thing, I started treating it like a 1-year experiment. And August 1st of every year is in my phone as an alert that I do a kind of a how does it feel recap. On being self-employed. And if I decide I don't like it, I make 3 phone calls and find a sales job in a week, treat it like an experiment.
Man, I love that. And I want to stay on this thought because whenever I start, I'm an executive coach. So whenever I get on coaching calls and someone's anxious or they're not comfortable with role playing, or we're trying a new project, a new initiative to implement across their culture, it's treat it like this is our laboratory. You get to practice, you get to make mistakes. You get to say things in a judgment-free, safe place here and practice it here. So when you say treat it like an experiment, what might that really mean to you? Let's just see you go deeper on that and to any way you might want to go. Just riff on that for a little while for us, please.
Sure. I feel like, especially, I talk mostly to women because that's really the soapbox that I stand on is high-performing women. And this idea of, if you are a high-performing woman, you're probably a high-performing girl. And, there's an incredible TED Talk by this woman named Reshma that girls are taught to be perfect, boys are taught to be brave. And if you were the high performing girl, you waited your turn and you raised your hand and you did all of the things by following the formula as a perfect human performing perfectly. And if you are going to get into, entrepreneurship or, investing or whatever thing that is, this game that I play in, to anticipate that perfection is an option is completely not possible. So using this idea of this is just an experiment, then it removes the pressure of it needing to be perfect. So can you mindset hack your way into just that little reframe that it takes to allow yourself the latitude to friggin' get over yourself? Because in most cases, the perfection thing or, what your mom thinks you should do is something that you are putting on yourself. And if you can remove that pressure, then, you will go further.
You hit me here in a very vulnerable place. I'm going to talk about experiment. And you just said mom. So I'm going to skip over the mom part of this experiment for a moment, because that, who knows where that could go. I'll go into this experiment. About 6.5 to 7 years ago, I had issues with a temper, and I would yell the name of my daughter loudly to be quiet because I'm on a Zoom call. I'm in business right now, and I'm still ashamed of it, regret it. And at the same time, it's led to this epiphany, this awareness that, and I've got to figure out a way. I need to, and I want to figure out a way to work through this so that I'm not yelling at my kids. I don't want them to have the same stuff that I may have or that others may have that I see getting yelled at all the time. So I had to go into the experimental mode. And this is what my coaches have talked to me about, even therapists and marriage coaches have talked to me about, practicing and experimenting. So I am practicing by looking at a finite period of time, 3 weeks, 21 days, and tracking and measuring how often I'm yelling. And just by starting to do that, just the awareness made it go down. But after, I'm proud to say, took longer than I may have wanted, it still happened. It took 2.5 years, and then we became a yell-free home, and we haven't yelled since. Very, very proud of that. And before, very ashamed of it. I share this with the audience because at one point, how do you break through something? Keep hitting your head against the wall over and over and over again. How do you break through? I love your model. I love treat it like an experiment. Go to the laboratory and practice it for a specific period of time. So that was one of my things that I had to get rid of.
What a gift you have given your family. I mean, to have shown them that grown-ups are humans and that they make mistakes and that you can do better. You can make a decision that you can do better and you will do better by going through with that decision. Yeah. Big high five to you, Matt. That's huge.
Thanks, Mandy.
I also really liked your message that, I say it a lot in business, that you can't manage what you don't measure. So what a brilliant strategy to bring this idea of putting data to something that wouldn't normally have data as a part of it. Because once you see on paper what's happening in the numbers, then, you can really start to affect change. So I really like how you did that too.